Good afternoon.
Oh, good.
It just went like that.
So how are you? How are you?
Oh, that's a good question. It's been an interesting week. It's felt. I mean, to be honest, it's felt a little bit like a roller coaster.
Really?
And one that at least when you're in an amusement park and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go on the roller coaster ride. And you have to wait usually in line for a
Uh-huh.
while. So you're prepping yourself for the fact that you've chosen to get on the roller coaster, right?
Gotcha.
This has been one of those where I'm like, I'm great. And then, oh my gosh, where did this come? And oh, I'm great again. Maybe that's more schizophrenic than it is roller coaster. It's feeling the times, man. I'm like, I think it's coming from a lot of the conversations I'm having. I'm coming into a place where I can really feel people,
Really?
when I talk to them.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's funny. I had this happen the other day. I was like, people are going to be like, what is this conversation about today?
Uh-huh.
But I had this conversation the other day with a client, and he was just like, oh man, I'm feeling this knot in my stomach, like stuff that's going on. I really need to talk about this because it's physically showing up as a knot.
Uh-huh.
And I was like,
Wow.
wow, that's crazy. And he's like, what? And I said, just before I got on the call, all of a sudden I had this knot in my stomach. And I couldn't figure out where it came from because I was good. Like there was nothing that was obvious to me. I'm like, maybe I'm hungry. Like, no, I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I'm like, now I know where that knot's coming from. So it's that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been really
Wow.
interesting. I'm like, is this mine? Is this not mine? What am I
You
supposed to
know,
do with it? Like, am I just supposed to be in empathy and compassion? Is that I'm supposed to feel? Like, literally, when we say to people, like, yeah, man, I feel you,
correct.
It's
Correct.
like, it's been a figure, of speech, but yeah, like it's been a week of kind of feeling on a different level.
Wow. Wow. So my 2 weeks. So we got a COVID-19 hit, a couple of hits. A friend of ours who was a friend of the family passed away in New York. John Edinger, great, excellent trumpet player, really nice guy, passed away. Heard about a couple friends, brothers. Mom passed away in New York also. I think Frederick and Jojo Robinson, and there are a couple others, right? And it finally hit home for me. It's not fear, but it's more. Uh, we have faith. We will follow the regimen, right? Going outside, masking, limiting going outside, right? Social distancing when we're walking around here. But it became real. So I liken this with, there was a time during the war in Liberia where we heard, so it was 1990, we heard about, oh, there's fighting so there are multiple counties in the country, and north, 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 yeah, the northern part, Nimba, was the county, and we heard fighting's there, and school was ongoing. And we kept on, we stayed in school, but we would see the news, but it wasn't real to us until um, the freedom fighters, rebels, came into the town, into the city, and then school stopped. School stopped. What we knew as normal from that period till today, I would say, changed us. And it was how this thing hit me when we heard about it. It was like, wow, this thing is real, But not trying to be a Debbie Downer here on this one, but just how the week has been. But then there has been other pluses, right? The pluses have been, I'm talking with clients, I'm talking with individuals, and what you said about feeling people, I mean, the supernatural, I believe in the supernatural. I
What
believe
they
in
say is like, we can't make this stuff up, you know, like it's like,
I know. I believe that you feeling the knot. I'm talking to someone and they were talking, and then boom, the Holy Spirit jumps in and I say, hey, we're supposed to be talking about bum, 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 and bum. And he goes, just yesterday, my partner told me da da da. And I was like, well, and it's been
wow.
over and over and over again in the past few weeks, right? But Tracy, I think I did a Debbie Downer here. I think I lowered the energy in this place.
You know what I hear? I mean, because when you were coming up with the language to put on for us to go live, you said raw. And I
Mm,
don't think there is, I mean, yes, we can make it about high vibe, low vibe, whatever, but to me, it's being raw and real is being where you're at in the moment and embracing that.
yeah.
When we give it a story, that's when it takes on the meaning, right? And so what if we just said, this is where I'm at and this is what I'm sharing? And again, there's a difference between sharing for factual information, like this is, I'm letting you know where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing where we have expectations on a reaction, because some people have learned to share negative things because it gets them attention, right? Some
Gotcha.
people have learned to like push away negative because they don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reactive, but it could be expectations around, okay, I don't want to talk about that, or I expect somebody to, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that kind of thing. But this is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about real. And I think I'm hoping that it's to allow people to know that, you know, I don't think there's any right. I was saying to somebody the other day, I don't think there's any right way to do this thing that we're all doing.
Mm-mm.
It, it, you know,
Mm-mm.
what we get to do is honor where we're at. I mean, because
Correct.
I'll tell you, with all the stuff that's coming up, somebody was saying, I feel like the rug just got ripped out from under us. And I said, yeah. And not only that, but when the rug got ripped, it showed all the stuff that had been stuck under the rug,
Oh my
so
goodness.
not only was our security and our day-to-day, kind of the conceptual understanding of like, I can rely on things being a certain way got ripped away. But then what it did was it unsurfaced, all of the stuff that had been shoved under the rug. And so we're dealing with that collectively, we're dealing with that personally. But I think one of the beautiful things I heard from you too, when things are coming up, it really shows us how much we're united. I mean, we, when we can feel one another, when
Mm,
things come in and we're just kind of following our instincts and saying, God, I don't know why. I
yeah.
trust that in my client sessions. I'm like, I'm supposed to say this, and I trust that I'm supposed to say it.
Correct.
I don't need to understand why I'm supposed to say it, but it's coming through, so I'm going to let it come out of my mouth. Those, like you shared, those are some of the most real moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not thinking with knock my glass off. We're not thinking with our heads. We're not like, oh, what do I need to say to this person? What expectations do they have? What expectations do I have as a coach trying to fix their issue or whatever?
Correct.
No, that's not what we're here for. We're here to literally be with one another, and being with one another does not have a script, hopefully.
So we're always deciphering each other's words in a way. So we go, what I heard was, but I have a friend who's a conflict resolution specialist, and most conflict comes from communication issues. And what we're doing here is what she says is the best way when you're communicating to say, so is this what you're saying? Da da da, right? And then I say, yes, that's what I'm saying. So we're all level setting as we move on in the conversation. Um, I wrote something on Facebook the other day. It should be coming up on. Well, I don't know why you came with the rug pulled out from under you, a metaphor, but again, I go back to, and I think I have a feeling where this conversation is going. This conversation is about um, understanding where we are, boom, but then using things from our past that will empower us, make us strong to go through what we're going through right now. And at first I said the war, and now I'm going to talk about the war again. So we're sitting down. So my parents had a trunk, a trunk in the house, with China and, the percolator only came out when guests came out, right? So they would come and take the China and then put it out and da da da. I was like, yeah. And we would go in and look at them like, oh wow, when are we going to use these forks? When are we going to use it? So we will use them. But when the war came, so that trunk was maybe about 4 feet wide by 2 feet high and maybe 3 feet deep, right? There was no way when those rebels came, there was no way that we could pick up that trunk with the TVs, with the basketball, with the clothes. Because there was one man, one. You had to take what you needed, and that was it. And if I remember, the only thing that we took was our lives, right? And that's the only thing we have. And the fact that you're watching, the fact that people are watching you and I conversating here, yeah, tissue really, isn't it? The rushing for milk, etc. I feel humans are inherently good that if I'm sitting here and I see someone passing on the road and needs something, I want to open my door and throw it, like, hey, have that, and close it back, right? I mean, just tease them about social distancing. But what I know for sure is, as long as we have life, and I would sit with my brother and we would sit and hold hands and we'll look at each other and go, we're not going to die. We're going to live in this war. And this is amidst ambushes and bullets passing through and us hunkering down to what you call it, to laying low rather, so bullets will pass over us, live bullets, Tracy. But the only thing that we had was life and hope, and just hoping and hoping. So what I'm saying is, as we're going through this, and even those who have lost their loved ones in this time, understand that we will keep their memories alive, right? We will keep their memories alive, but more so, you have life and you have it more abundantly, and it's time for you to live it. It adds another booster to push us off. I'm going to punt back to you on this, Tracy.
That's so beautiful. I mean, this is the second time you've shared it with me, and you shared it in a different contextual space. And so I get even more feeling about that experience that you had. And I think you're absolutely right. It's an amazing analogy. My daughter read the book A Long Walk to Water. And so a lot of what you share about your time there reminds me so much of that book, because she was so touched by it. She told
Yeah.
me about it, so I read it. And I was touched by it. I oftentimes recommend it to clients because, we are very blessed. We have so much. And I think what we're really being tested to is, people have said this before, is prioritizing. Now that we have, I've heard so many stories about people reawakening their relationships with their family, because they're now together all the time.
Yes.
And,
yes.
they're being both forced to communicate effectively where maybe they used distractions before, and now there's no distractions. Can't go out to dinner or out with other friends. Like, you got to really deal with this stuff.
Yes.
But also the good stuff, we didn't have time for or we weren't making time. I don't like using that we didn't have time, because we've always had time. We just chosen to use our time for other things. And
Correct.
now that those other things are being kind of, in a way, stripped from us, right? Those options are being taken off, I believe is so much for us. Take those distractions away, and then you can see what matters.
Wow.
Because you think, everybody's talking about, like, when we get back to normal, and a lot of people are saying it's not going to be the same. And I agree with that. I think when we get to wherever we're going, we're going to look back and I was saying this to a girlfriend yesterday, we're going to look back and go, why were we doing that?
Wow.
Why were we not making time for what, like, we thought that was living. We thought that was success. We thought that was connection. Like, wow, were we asleep? I feel it. Like, I just feel like, as much as we're going through this, it's being used ad nauseum, but this birthing cycle, right? This transformation, this shift, right? This to another way. it means that those things have to go away, because if they didn't, we would continue to focus on them.
Mm,
And so, by you having your literally life and limb, in the balance, you got real clear real fast about what you wanted.
correct.
Right.
Correct.
And I think
Correct.
that's what's happening with a lot of us. I mean, if we're embracing that, I mean, everybody's in their different space and how they're handling this. And like I said, there's no right or wrong to it. But I think in general, if we look at this collectively, there are people who are still operating pretty, coherently on this planet who lived through World War II. And
Mm,
so it's not like our people, the human beings have not been through hardship before.
correct.
Again, I was sharing something from uh, an email that Tony Robbins wrote a couple of weeks ago in my recent blog. He's like, we've been here before and we'll be here again.
Hmm.
And when we
Hmm.
make it about the catastrophe, and when we make it about the story, we might be missing the lesson.
Mm, mm. You know, yeah, so many points to jump off on. I, everybody's going through, most people are going through the identical thing right now, this pandemic. But let's take the spectrum of life, right? And look at, it's not a pandemic that all of us go through, but we go through life-changing things every day. From the time you're born till the time you die, you're going through a pandemic that you have to navigate, right? So we've all navigated pandemics. I'm using that word loosely because I'm defining pandemic in this particular discussion now, this portion of our discussion, as anything that has been a turmoil, that has been under your skin, that has caused you to stop, hit you in your tracks, and you're like this is what it's doing to us. It's stopping us in our tracks. We are pivoting. We're doing something different than what we did before. That happens to us every single day. And once, and and and, and things die in that process. A lot of things die in that process. There's the death of self. There's the death of materialism, your attachment to materialism. There's the death of people who you thought were going to be on your, were supposed to be on your side, that aren't on your side, or it's not their place to go with you to this next level. So there are deaths, but right now there are real deaths. But what I'm saying is, the same way that we go through these various pandemics in our lives, these turmoils, and we come out scarred. And the scar represents for me, like now, my scar of war. When I look at that scar and I see this pandemic, I go, okay, lessons learned from there was life first, ensure that others around you were taken care of, find something to eat, survival. Boom. Now, Tracy, I tell you, you with the human spirit, it's so hard to kill this spirit. It is so hard to kill it because there are certain things you will eat. There are certain places I remember, oh, I don't even want to remember this. My mom, dad, and my brother were walking, and as we're walking, night hits us. We stop, don't know where we're sleeping. Someone opens the door for us. Hey, how you doing? So in Liberia, someone knows someone, 6 degrees of separation, right? And they say, oh, you can sleep here. We have a room out back. So like, thank you, Tracy. We get in the room, the candles on, everything is pristine. We're looking. So my mom, all four of us get in we get on a, it's a, it's a full-size bed, and we do sideways, right? We do sideways. At about 12, I go and I and I feel something. And then my dad, I hear my dad, I hear my mom, I hear my brother, and we're like, what's that? And all over our skin. So I said, put the candle on, put the light on, and we open it, bed bugs. Oh, and I mean, when we turned the lights on, the sheets were white, right? At that time, the sheets were polka dots, just pop, 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 pop. And we looked at it, and my dad looks at us and says, so there are two things we can do right now. We can shake it and put the sheet back over, and we can go to bed because we have a bed, or else we'll be laid on the floor and we don't know the ground, where we'll be crawling on the ground. So we have to change our mindsets. Is this bed okay? Yeah, that is okay. It's good. And guess what? We went to sleep. So the things that we do in these times, the human spirit, trust in the human spirit. I trust it. I trust it. Hey, back at you.
You know, it's so funny. I mean, I keep thinking about The Long Walk to Water. There's a part in there, he's talking about how they get attacked by mosquitoes. You know, they end up finding this place, but then as soon as they're like, why is everybody going in and locking their doors and putting, you know, and they're outside, and you know, as soon as the, you know, moon starts to come up, and all of a sudden all the mosquitoes, I mean, and they're just, you know, the next day they're just covered top to bottom. And you know, that's the piece. I mean, you and I talked about the experience I had in Switzerland, you know, where I was kind of given this life, I mean, literally life or death, you know, moment of, okay, what am I going to do? And you're right. The spirit doesn't, you know, the spirit doesn't die. Let's just put it that way.
Correct.
You know, it's the human body eventually does. But if we can tap into that spirit aspect of ourselves and realize this is an adventure, like this life is really meant to be an adventure. And if we chose comfort zone, you know, okay, it's comfortable, but as they say, no growth happens there. And we lose that adventuresome experience, right? So in so many ways, we're being gifted with this. I'm going to use opportunity because I do think it's an opportunity. Is it a challenging one? Of course it is. Is it a painful one? Yes. You know, we can choose to be in pain or to be suffering. You know, pain is real. Pain comes, and a lot of people are actually in pain right now.
Correct.
You know, it's whether we continue to tell that story, or the worry that we have that storyline of our neighbor who's lost a life in their family or something might become ours, right? That's suffering, right? That's when we, you know, take that, either if we had a pain wound and we take the second arrow. I love the Buddhist tradition story around pain and suffering. You know, we take that second arrow and we shove it into the wound that was created by the first arrow, which is pain, over and over and over again. That's a choice. You know, we need to stop and realize that to sit there and watch the news and to worry about what's going to happen when we don't know. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but a couple of days ago, we had a tornado that touched down 15 minutes from where we live.
Wow.
And it was on the ground for about 20 minutes. And it was early in the morning. It was about 6 a.m. And my husband had been hearing the alarms going off on the phones. So he had gotten up and had been watching and monitoring to see kind of where it is, and was it coming our direction, or and waiting to wake the rest of us up, you know, in case we needed to get to shelter.
Correct.
And it ended up going in the opposite direction, but it was heading straight for Hillsborough. And just before it hit city limits, it dispersed. But for people who are like, oh my God, they're going to die, like, we don't know what's going to happen. Even if we see something heading straight for something, keeping that I don't know mind is so important right now. No matter what we're hearing in the news, no matter what, you know, we're hearing from one another, no matter what's going on, the end of the day, until that thing actually happens, we don't know. So to sit there and have suffering over it, you know, of oh, I'm going to lose everything, or oh this, or oh that, or oh, you know, what's going to happen if we can't go back to work in the next month, or I don't know what's going to happen, you know. And so what if we keep that? I mean, I think this is where faith comes into. Like, I believe this is for us. I don't believe this is being done to us. And so if that's what I believe, then I also get to hold this, then it's going to turn out well. Does that mean we're not going to have some loss or death of things? No, that's not what that means. We
Yes.
will, you know,
Correct.
and that will be our own lesson, right? Whatever we lose in
Mm-hmm.
this, and
Mm-hmm.
we've already all lost something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've lost our freedoms to be able to go out and live how we used to. I mean, we've all lost something. You know, to what degree we lose things is really, I believe, the decision our soul made to have certain life experiences. You
Mm.
know, and then collectively, what we do with those experiences, and whether we embrace them or whether we resist them, right? And if they say what we resist persists, then in that resistance, we're going to continue to form more and more of the same thing that we're resisting against.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So, you know, I love how, I mean, people say, well, yeah, what else are you going to do? When I tell people a story of like stealing that van so I can get myself and my stuff to a safer place, and then, you know, bringing it back at dawn, and, you know, jumping on the next train out of town. I mean, they're like, God, it sounds like a made for TV movie. I mean,
Correct.
well, what else was I going to do? You know,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not going to just sit there and freeze, because
Th-
if I didn't put action to it, I
there
know
you
what would
go.
have happened.
There you go. So you didn't panic.
That's right.
You did not panic. I was about to ask you. So in that process of fear of flight, or things coming at you, you didn't panic, and you made those decisions. And you know what? Come on, take 5 minutes and tell the story about. You want to set it up?
The whole story, whole
Just
story,
set
nothing
it
but the
up, set it
story.
up, and then it could, because these stories, what we're talking here, the next 2 weeks when we come and talk, there will be a piece of the story coming in, because that's who we are. The story will forever have those things in it. You talk about faith. We're coming back to your story, please, but you talk about faith. I remember a bunch of my family, my cousins, we were in our father's hometown called Croserville, right? So it's roughly about 20, 30 miles outside of Monrovia. But it's considered outside, it's countryside, right? And we are expecting, we hear we're about to be infiltrated again by rebel forces. My dad, my uncles, they're sitting there and they say, well, we died, we were born here, so we will die here. So I was like, okay. So I looked at them, and all my cousins my age were sitting around, and I looked at them, I said, okay, I get it. And they were like, what? I said, so where we were born, that's where we die. So we weren't born here. I said, I know I wasn't born in this town. I was born on that side. Peace, Daddy. You guys can take care. I'm leaving. But here's the story. A bunch of us said, okay, yeah, we're leaving since we weren't born here. So, a bunch of rebels we were. My cousins, we said, we were going to the other part of town to stay. So roughly about a mile or two, right? We start to walk. As we're walking, we're laughing and talking. This is us prior every night, morning, even during the day, we're praying, Father God, direct us. And I didn't have a relationship with God to, to at that time to say, I knew him or anything, but I was praying, right? And I have faith in him. We walked through in the darkness, Tracy, got to where we were supposed to be going. The next morning, we're all traveling now. The caravan is moving now through town. As we're passing, a couple of the guys with guns come up to us like, hey. So we're like, oop, yeah. Says, you. He pinpointed each and every one of us who left the house that night and went through, because we passed through the bush. He said, you guys passed right through our ambush. And we were looking at y'all laughing, because you guys were laughing, going, ha, ha, ha. And we were told to just, nobody should pass through there because we don't trust anybody. But we didn't shoot you. And we looked at the guy and we're like, it didn't hit me until maybe a couple weeks, years, even today, I'm replaying this story. God is taking care of you even when you don't even know, right? And we're walking through there. Yeah, we're not low, we're high, laughing, acting crazy. And there we go, faith and providence taking care of us. Other people were shot in ambushes. I wasn't lucky, I was blessed, right? So let's come back now. I'm sure this Swiss story has something to do with faith in the face of fear, or in the face of something that was just going down. So set it up for us, please.
Well, first of all, I love that story. I mean, like, who wouldn't? It made me think of the time too that I've had a quick other story, because it's totally like that, is that we
Okay.
were in this place of joyful living, right? When we allow ourselves to have joy, even at a time, like the reason you left was to be, find yourself in a safer place, right?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
chose to go somewhere where you felt you would be safer,
Correct.
right? And so, that was a choice of action. And then, but the way in which you traveled from where you were leaving to where you were going was in joy, right? It wasn't in a state of, oh God, I hope we get there,
Mm,
oh geez, like what if, type of thing. You all were joyfully living.
correct.
And when I was pregnant, there was so there's a woman named Lynn Grabhorn, and she did this video, this audio that I would listen to over and over and over again. It's all good vibe kind of stuff. And I remember because I had a commute. I was staying. This was before I actually was pregnant enough where I started living in the town that I was teaching in.
Okay.
But I had a commute of about an hour and a half both ways, so 3 hours altogether in a day. So I'd listen to this
Mm-hmm.
this audio. And I remember one time I'm listening, and of course you're not really always paying attention when you're really in it and you're feeling the vibe, kind of like and your family. And I sure I was going faster than I was going faster than I was supposed to. And I was coming off of this, and it was so weird because it was in this kind of, when it's almost that wake sleep state where you're kind of aware, but you're not really aware.
Uh-huh.
So I'm coming off this, like, and apparently I'm driving, and I get this vision of this police officer coming up next to me and trying to get my attention, but I'm so in this zone. So there's part of me that was aware of this, but the biggest part of me was tapped into what I'm listening and feeling the vibe and all this stuff. And finally, I just see him veer off, and I'm driving, and it took me, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes down the road before I'm like, was he trying to pull me over? What, was he trying to get my attention? But I'm just smiling and going like, this is like, I can't pull her over. She's having way too much fun.
I get you.
And I thought, did I really? Was it? Because I'm pretty sure that's what I sensed over there or saw over there out of the periphery of my eye. But
Oh, wow.
man, no, I was just focused on living
Wow.
a joyful life in that moment. And so that's what I thought of when you're telling that story. I mean, it's, it's real.
Wow. Mm,
It's real.
mm, mm.
It's real
Wow.
stuff. So we can find those moments in this transition through the hard stuff, right?
True.
To
True.
have joyful living, whether it's go outside and listen to the birds, or tap into our children or our other loved ones, or just simply take a look around at all we do have.
Mm.
Because even if there's things we don't have anymore, there's that many more things we do have still, and to utilize them. You're talking about the trunk and how you wouldn't use that stuff, and then, well, what use is it when you can't take it with you? So it's like they talk about the nice undergarments that people don't wear except for special, like wear them, folks.
Wear 'em.
Use that stuff, because we don't know how long we're going to be able to do it. What's the point in having stuff we don't use?
So guess what? From that experience, as soon as I purchase something, boom, I put it on. And my wife goes, whoa. I say, hey, you haven't been where I've been. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to use it well. Because guess what? Somebody else is going to use it for you.
That's
But
right.
I tell you, but I like how gosh, it's something I've been through, completely different context. You've been through it, completely different context. Nobody is inoculated. Nobody has the medicine that will alleviate them going through issues here on earth, right? And I think it comes to that conversation we hear, glass, oops, that disappeared in cup.
The
Glass half
disappearing guy.
is a zoom, man. Let's go. Bzz.
I love it.
And then check it
And
out,
I
check it
pull
out,
it.
check it out.
Suddenly, we're all magicians on Zoom.
But is the glass half full or half empty? Uh, I always see it half full and going up. Yesterday we had a conversation. I had a conversation with, I think, Sarah Madras, yeah, and we started our conversation with, what are two words? What are two words you're feeling right now? Because she got on the call, a Zoom call, and I was looking like this at my other screen, and it looked as if I was doing, just down. She says, "Wulwyn, what's going on?" I'm like, nothing, I'm good. I'm just waiting for you. And I turned my screen to this side to know, and she goes, two words. And I told her abundant and full. And I said, no, I want to add a third one, blessed, right? Blessed. What are your two words?
My two words?
You're on the spot.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Aware and reverent.
Ooh, you gotta something. You have a background in language, do you? Linguistics.
Little bit.
So explain that for us, please.
Yeah,
Explain that for us.
I was having, actually, speaking of Sarah, I was their recent guest that the podcast they just
Correct.
put out for girls who do stuff.
Girls who do stuff, Jenny Meachley and Sarah Madras.
They have oh man, they're
Crazy.
good. They're good. That was so much fun. We had a great time. And they had a lightning round. They have the lightning round at the end, and where they're just like, hey, we're gonna ask you questions that you're not prepared to answer. I'm like, okay.
Sounds like them.
And one of them, like, it was the last one, actually, we were talking about, what would you tell your younger self now, right? If you could go back as who you are now and give some advice to your younger self, when would you, at what age would you go back to, and what would you say? And as we were talking, this beautiful thing came out around, because Sarah, Jenny, you know how Jenny is, Jenny's straight, she's a straight shooter. And she's like, yeah, you present as a person who is constantly reading the room. Like like you're just, and I'm like, that I've been told that, like, when do you turn off? When do you, and I'm like, wow. What are you talking about? Like, this is me. Like, I'm being me. Like, just be yourself. I am being myself, And what it suddenly in an instant occurred to me is, yeah, it's hard, because most people, again, that rug analogy, most people spend so much time trying to hide things, hide the things that they don't think the story they're telling themselves, they don't think are good enough about them from the rest of the world, so that they'll like them, or so that they'll connect with them or trust them or whatever. So much energy and effort taking care of our stuff and our image, that when somebody like that comes into our space, it's like, oh, they're judging me, right? And they might see what I don't want them to see. And it occurred to me in that instant that that's why people were probably asking me, when do you turn off? Or when do you, I'll deal with you when you stop doing that, because I'll feel safe. And in reality, what I ended up saying was, what people don't know, that was the question, what do people not know about you?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what people don't know is that what I'm scanning for are the goods, the good goods, the beauty in them. Like, I can see people's brilliance, and it makes me so happy. And I want to help facilitate that brilliance coming into the world, because that's what they came for. Correct. I mean, if I can help them even a little bit to come forward, like, that's what I'm actually scanning for. Correct. Yeah, sure, I'm looking for things that maybe aren't quite right for solutions, because I'm solution oriented, right? Correct. It's like, what's not quite right, and how can I help facilitate a solution for that? but not for bad reasons, not for judgmental reasons, not
Correct.
for where can I tear somebody apart because I just saw behind the, the Wizard of Oz curtain thing going on. That is not my personality. And so it suddenly kind of connected for me, like, I get it. I get how people get uncomfortable with that, but if they only knew that
Correct.
I'm actually
Correct.
looking for their beauty and their brilliance, and that's what I'm focusing on, right?
Wow.
So that's the awareness piece. When I say the word awareness, that's kind of what I
Okay.
mean is
Okay.
having this looking with bright eyes, as we do as children, and curiosity and interest, right, into the
Mm,
world. And yet also what I'm learning is how can you see things so clearly and not necessary and hold neutral space for them. In other words, the I don't know mind. You can see, like I see agendas going on right now out there in the world, and I could get really conspiracy theorist on, myself with that, and like, ooh, where do I think this is going?
mm-hmm.
But I don't choose to. I choose to just be like, okay, that's what I feel I see, but I don't know. I
Mm,
don't know. I don't
mm.
ultimately know what's going to happen, what's truly going on, what I don't. So I will hold that awareness loosely, right?
You know, and it's okay not to know. It's
It's
so
okay.
okay not to know. You know, I used to, the immature me still am, but I think I'm slightly mature, more mature than then. I I would cringe if I was doing when I was doing a presentation. Um, I would cringe before time, thinking someone's going to be in here who knows more than I do, and when they ask me the question, I'll be like, and guess what? All through, nothing would happen in such a way, and then it finally hit me. If this does happen, and it happened, it has happened numerous times, and it will happen so many more times. Wulwyn Porte, do you know da da da? No, I don't. But give me a few minutes or give me a couple of days. I will get the answer for you. I will research it, get the answer for you, and get back to you. Give me your email, your number, or the fact that you asked this question, you have an idea. So what are your thoughts, right? And then year is where collaboration and discovery comes into play. It's me faking it. If I fake it and lie, there's so much less respect for me than me admitting that, hey, I don't. And right here in this home, I have a prayer, and I say, Father, I don't know how to be a good husband. I don't know how to be a good dad. I don't know how to be a good friend. I don't, because give this flesh chance, this flesh will run wild, right? And I say, God, I just ask you to just help me in doing this. And I'm saying this to you, and on in a couple of days, Verlin and I will be having our 20th wedding anniversary, right? And I remember when we first started, it was, let's just take it one day at a time. Let's just take it one day at a time. Divorce is not the answer. Let's just do it one day at a time and see where it leads us, right? And during this time, during this time of uncertainty where you don't know, it's okay not to know. There were periods in I'm pretty sure in your life, but in mine, where I I didn't live with a vision for a year or 5 or 10. I didn't live with a vision for 24 hours. I didn't live with a vision for 1 hour. I live with a vision of one breath. And it's okay to have the one breath vision sometimes where we're in a period where we're like, know your vision, know what you're doing next week, know what you're doing in a year, know what you're doing in this time. It's good to put that vision. I'm not saying do it, right? But not because you see other people doing something means, oh, they're doing something, I have to do it. But if your vision is to do it one breath at a time, go for it. And one breath at a time is so liberating. It takes you away from next steps that you just "Mm, I'm alive. Okay. Mm, I'm alive." And you keep on going.
I love that.
I don't know where that came from, but hey.
Well, and it's beautiful. It kind of reminds me, I did a blog post years ago, and it was the differences I saw between expectation and acceptance.
Mm,
And I told this story of if there were two men, right, and they were journeying through a forest, right? They were both going from south to north.
mhm,
And one man decided to journey through the forest through the lens of expectation, right? So he
mm,
plotted out his journey and he knew exactly where he was going to go. And he knew which rocks to take a left at. And he knew that was the way he was going to get the quickest and most efficiently north.
correct.
And he sets off and he immediately finds block after block. There's a tree in the way that he wanted to go. And it's so big that if he took the time, it would take him a day and a half to get around the tree to keep going that way. So he's, but he's like, but I have to go that way. So he takes the day and a half to go around the tree so they can get back on that one path that he knows is
Mhm,
the right way to go. And then, he breaks his leg. And I mean, there's this whole course of events that happen. By the time he gets to north, he's so battered and bruised, and his spirit is broken little bit as well, because he's kind of angry that it didn't go the way it was supposed to. He had
correct.
expectation that this was the way it was going to go, and
Mm,
it didn't go that way. And so he can't even celebrate that he ended up where he wanted to be, because he's thinking about, this didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. Right? So then you've got the second man. He journeys through the same forest, but instead of through the lens of expectation, he has the lens of acceptance. So he too gets to that big tree in the way, and he's like, well, I guess maybe this means I'm meant to go a different way. And so he follows a different path. He's like, let's think about this. Let's work through it. And he too meets up with the same obstacles. But
mhm,
because he's thinking through acceptance, and perhaps this is slowing me down because maybe something would have happened and maybe it wasn't the right time. And it's all acceptance of what is and working with that acceptance of what is. And by the time he gets to his destination, he feels so empowered and so excited and so proud of himself that he was able to pivot and move and make the best of his situation,
mm,
that he doesn't even celebrate necessarily that he got there. He celebrates how he got there, right? Completely different life experiences,
yes.
right? Same journey path, different life experiences. And so that's what I was thinking of when you're talking about it. It's not always the what, right? So have the vision, but also that I don't know mind reminds me of not having expectation around how that's going to manifest,
Mm,
how that you're going to get to that vision. No, I mean, I'm all about creating the crystal clear blueprint of,
oh,
if I
yeah.
made, waved a magic wand, what would it look like?
Yes.
That's fun. That's engaging. That feels good. Having vision boards, that feels good. Have that and realize that it may not end up looking just like that, but it will always be better than you could ever imagine.
Will
Right?
always be better. Always be better.
Regardless of what you encounter along the way.
Mm,
Right? Regardless of the bumps and bruises and the pain arrows that we take, and regardless of all that, it will always end up better than we could ever imagine. And that's what I hold in my heart during these times. I mean, the week 2 with COVID, we had, within 1 week, I had just gotten ready to onboard 5 new clients. They all pulled out because they're like, got to hold on to my finances.
yes.
The same week and a half, my husband loses his job. Well, it's temporary, but who knows how
Correct.
temporary
The
that's going to
furlough.
be, not bringing
Yes.
any income.
Yes.
We also have this massive water leak in our house that's dripping down the walls and now is causing black mold issues that we have to deal with. And we get hit with the fact that we owe a bunch of taxes from last year because of a switch that my husband did in the middle of the year with business and hadn't kept track of how many taxes that he needed to put in and all that. So
Uh-huh.
this massive tax payback that we have on this was within a week and a half time.
Mhm.
So people ask me, what did you do? I'm like, I grieved for a while. I dealt with my emotions and I
Yes.
applied all the strategies and tools that I teach other people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Like
Mhm.
what else am I going to do? I get to feel my emotions. I get to deal with all of that, but I also get to say, been there before, right? Been there. Switzerland was like that. My time being pregnant with my daughter was like that. There were moments of time when I did not know what was going to happen, and it looked bleak.
Yes.
It looked
Yes.
really, where I thought it might possibly go, did not look good. And it was the mindset that, and the tools and those things that I reached out, the Lynn Grabhorn CD that kept me from getting a ticket from a cop. All these things that I look back on the story of a time when I was being told constantly there might be problems with my baby, every ultrasound. And somehow in the day-to-day between those ultrasounds, I was finding things to be joyful about, to be hopeful about, to feel like things were going to be okay. But I didn't find them out here. I found them in here, in and up, right? And that's what I feel we're here to talk about most, is that when I was just saying this the other day, we were asked to go home, to quarantine ourselves in our homes. To me, that's symbolic for this home, right? Go in, let's look in, let's find the security and groundedness within ourselves.
Yes.
Because the illusion of anything out there, we're seeing it. We're seeing the illusionary, the government's going to be there and people can't get unemployment. The government's going to be there and they can't get the loans. The government's going to be there and, X, Y, and Z, or, people are going to be there for us and they can't. They literally can't. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't. And now what? Right? So we're all in it. I'm in it every day now.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll figure this out. Like, not sure, but we'll figure this out. So, it is, I know I didn't talk about Switzerland,
No, that's for another day. Don't worry about
it. That's where we can get to that. But I think that the reference is just, again, that's how our talks go, right?
Correct. That's how to go. As we dusk another one, today's my daughter's 15th birthday.
Oh, happy
April 15, 15 years old. And the only thing I can think about when you were talking, you don't know what their expectations, having their expectations and, coming to the tree and moving around. And it's the journey that makes it worth it, right? And if we can stop today and look back, turn and look at your past and see, did it happen the way you planned it? No, never did. So what makes you feel that as we're going through this process, this is another one that when we go from this point in time to this, when we look back to this one, be like, it's all gravy, right? But I still remember my daughter. So when you were talking about your daughter, the complications, my wife, Verlin, had preeclampsia during her pregnancy.
That's hard.
Both of them. And Jazz came at 28 weeks. Can you imagine? And I could put her in my palms and her feet would dangle off, right? And I didn't want to attach myself to it. And I would go to the hospital and look at it, and I'm saying it for a reason. I would look at it and people would say, hey, you want to, I'm like, no, it's okay, because I was protecting myself in a way, right? And then it hit me, hey, if it changed from it to she, if she passes away, the times that you would hold her are more precious than the times that you wouldn't. So then I started to go, oh, I want to hold her. And from 2.5 pounds, she is 5'6", 5'6", still growing. No complications. And the only thing I can say is thank God that I went through that, because it also is my story, it's our story. Everything that we've been through that hasn't killed us, and we still live for another day. Traci, friends, friends of Tracy, friends of Wulwyn, friends of friends of friends of friends. During this time, I tell you, keep your head up. Everything will be well. Everything will be well. And who am I to say it? There's a guy from West Africa, went through a year plus of war, had to come to a country, and I still speak English, but have to speak it with Americanism, Americana. But no, so we joke a lot, but you will be okay. Tracy, last words?
I want to say really quickly, because that story reminded me so much of my brother's birth. When my mother, she was very sick towards the last trimester of her birth, and my brother was born a blue baby. So he was literally blue, and they couldn't oxygenate him. And during those days, they didn't believe in, the bonding but they didn't know about the bonding of the parents. And so they had taken him away to have him in NICU. And every day would just come back and saying, we don't think he's going to make it. So that's all my mother's getting, is these messages back from the nurses, we don't think he's going to make it. And she kept saying, I want to see my baby. And they're like, we don't think that's a good idea. So finally, when it just looked like it was, it's like, I'm going to see my baby, she got up, she had her gown on, everything, marched into the NICU. They couldn't stop her, but he was in this oxygen tent, and there are little arm areas where you could put your hand in to touch them, and his vitals were so weak, they were so low. And soon as she reached in to put her hand in there and touched him, they spiked. And from then on, she went every day and spent hours sitting with him. And within a couple of days, they were able to release him, because he needed his mom. He was dying because they were not attached. And so I think that that's something we can remember, is that in this time of being told we need to go home, we need to distance, and we need to take care of our stuff. It's very true. We get to trust our instincts as well. My mother had the instinct, like, I don't care, I'm going in there. You can try to stop me, it's not going to work.
Right.
But she knew she had to be there, and she answered that calling. And to my brother's side, he answered back. So I think that we don't need to necessarily be constantly with each other to be connected. I think that goes back to how we first started this conversation of feeling one another, feeling people that we're connecting with. We can send those good vibes or whatever we need to do in so many different ways other than physically, and also to trust our instincts on which way to pivot next.
Wow. Now, what a way to end this one. You've blessed me. You've blessed me over and over again. I thank you so much I thank Jenny again for forcing us to be introduced. I thank you for your availability. I thank God for you and I being able to just sit down and talk and express ourselves and be vulnerable, right? And thank you.
Well, right back at you. I mean, it touches me. Our conversations are something I look forward to, every time. And I really appreciate everything you bring to the table for this. So your life, everything you brought with you. And we hope, obviously for all of you guys watching and listening, we hope that this is a benefit. It's certainly benefiting us. We have a happy little party of two. So
yes.
It's helping. Or, you just know there's other people out there feeling what you're feeling or going through what you're going through.
And that's why we call it Eavesdrop. So here's episode 2. Have a great one.